Piper, no. Tsunami. Buddhism. No. No.
Piper, no. Tsunami. Buddhism. Piper, no. No. I'm sorry, you know I had to do it. Hello, I'm Annoying Black Boy, and in today's video we'll be having an unserious discussion of Season 3 of The White Lotus because I have things to say. And if this video is just me kissing Mike White's ass for however long this video is, then so be it. This is such a character-driven show, and I just love how Mike writes his characters. I love how it's our job as the audience to analyze the characters' interactions. I love the commentary on the wealthy, out-of-touch people alongside the class divide. I just think it's a brilliant show, and no show has ever made me feel the way that The White Lotus makes me feel. How everything is happening even though on the surface it feels like nothing is happening. How the music adds tension to the conversations that the characters are having with each other. And the cinematography, especially this season, was astounding. Like, this is an amazing show. From the humor, to the characters, to the writing, to the storyline, to everything. So yes, I love Mike White, and I still can't believe he was like, what, a co-writer for that Emoji movie? Atrocious, but yeah. But yes, I just love the show. I love his writing in the show, and yeah, I'm just going to be saying that throughout this entire video. So how I'm going to structure this video is, first I'm going to talk about the background information, and then I'll talk about the characters and their storylines, and then I'll talk about the season finale. Right after that, I'll talk about parallels and connections, and after that, I'll talk about some fandom discourse, and right at the end, I'll talk about my final thoughts. And if you're an avid viewer of the channel, first of all, thank you so much. But second, you might have noticed that I am not wearing my glasses, and that is because as I'm recording this section of the video, literally a week ago, I literally just like looked down and my glasses fell off and they broke. But do not worry, the last day that I was off, I was able to go to the eye doctor to get an eye exam. I got my prescription and I went to lens crafters to pick up my frames and stuff, but my glasses won't be ready and shipped to me until about 1 to 2 weeks. And get this, so lens crafters, they do like same day delivery service, but my prescription, it was so strong because a bitch cannot see. It was so strong that lens crafters, they did not have my prescription in the store, so they had to literally order it. So yeah, but anyway, I will see soon, so don't worry about me. Before we get into the video, I like making video essays on pop culture and society as a whole, and I also like making commentary videos on TV shows. And this is like my first commentary on a TV show in a long ass time, so I'm very excited to dive into The White Lotus Season 3. If any of that appeals to you, make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, let's get into The White Lotus Season 3. Let's go.
How wonderful for you. How wonderful for you.
You make me want to run to the store and pick you up. You're so hot, you're so hot.
The White Lotus is an American comedy drama anthology series written, created, and directed by Mike White for HBO, and it premiered on July 11, 2021. The show follows the storylines of the guests and the staff workers as a week is spent at the titular White Lotus, this fancy-ass, expensive-ass resort. And the story framing of each season is in the beginning shots of the season, somebody is dead, a body is found, and throughout the whole season, it kind of plays like this flashback leading up to the events of what happened and how somebody died. So we, the audience, are just trying to guess who the hell died. And like I said, this is an anthology show, so each season follows a different group of people with only a few characters returning for another season. And the only characters that return for other seasons are Tanya, Belinda, and Greg. And Greg is the only character that has been in each season. Each season is set and filmed in a different place across the world, with season 1 being set and filmed in Hawaii, season 2 being set in Sicily, and the most recent season, season 3, being set in Thailand. Also, each season has a specific theme. So season 1 theme was money, colonialism. Season 2's theme was sex. And season 3, their theme was death and spirituality. Critics love this show because of the cinematography, the acting, the humor, literally everything about this show. But we love this show because of all those reasons, but because of the commentary on the class and on wealth and privilege and all that kind of stuff. And the show is very good at making us have conversations that are so nuanced, because in a lot of these situations there is no right or wrong answer, or there's a lot of gray instead of being black and white. And this show has won many Emmys. I think as I'm recording this, at least 15 as of right now. And the show has also won a couple Golden Globes. And also Jennifer Coolidge, who played Tanya McCoy in season 1 and 2, she won 2 Emmys and a Golden Globe, I believe. And Murray Burlett, he has also won an Emmy, and he played Armand, who was the resort manager in season 1. Mike has also won Emmys for writing, directing, and producing. Season 3 was delayed because of the writer's strike in 2023, but season 3 finally did get to premiere on February 16th, 2025. And before we get into the characters, I do want to share this neat little tidbit about the show. So the whole entire show, The White Lotus, is a direct reference to Greek mythology and the story of the lotus eaters. So let me break it down for you, okay? So Odysseus, when he was on his journey back home, him and his men, they ran into this island, and the people of that island, their main source of food was the lotus fruit. And the lotus fruit was quoted as being sweet as honey. And the men, like Odysseus' men, they ate the fruit and they became like blissfully unaware, and they just didn't have the desire to go back home. So they're just forgetting about their journey back home. So Odysseus, he literally had to physically drag his men back on the ship so they can go back home. And in a figurative sense, this is referring to people that rather spend their time in indulgence and luxury rather than dealing with practical issues and dealing with consequences of the real world. And this is such a reference to the characters, especially the guests of The White Lotus. Episode 5 of season 1 is even called The Lotus Eaters, and Armand makes a reference to the guests as being lotus eaters. He even recites an excerpt written by Alfred Tennyson.
Sometimes just watching them eat every night makes me want to gouge my eyes out. The lotus eaters. Hateful as the dark blue sky, vaulted o'er the dark blue sea. Death is the end of life. Ah, why should life all labor be?
And before we even talk about these characters, I just have to say that if I say I hate any of these characters, I'm not talking about the characterization or how they are written, because I love how Mike written these characters. I'm talking about if these people were real life people, I wouldn't be able to stand them. That's what I mean if I ever say I hate these characters. And how I'm going to structure this part is I'm going to be talking about the staff members first, and then I'm going to be talking about the guests. First, I'm going to be talking about Fabian. So his character is really interesting because this is the first time we're really not getting a lot of focus on the resort manager. And I think part of the reason is because we're also meeting the hotel owners. There isn't really much to say about Fabian as a character. Again, we know that he's the hotel staff manager. We know that he's German. He's kind of shy. And he can, in certain situations, lack confidence. We know that he dreams of being a singer, and he even writes his own songs. And he was also on Gaituk's ass for not being the best security guard, and rightfully so, because literally, how did you get your gun stolen, and how did you literally let robbers get past the gate. Like, so yeah, rightfully so, Fabian was on his ass. And I know he didn't die at the end, but seeing him literally fall into the water when the whole ordeal happened, that was the funniest Fabian scene we've ever gotten. So yes, he did not live up to the queer icons Armand and Valentina. And also, he didn't take Belinda's concern about Greg seriously, so that's another L. That was very cringy. Okay, now let's talk about Shritala. She is the proud owner of the White Lotus Resort in Thailand, and she is also the visionary behind the wellness center that the resort has. And she also revealed to Jacqueline that she has autoimmune disease, so that's why she takes health and wellness very seriously. She is married to a white American man, and that will be very important later on in this video. She is a well-respected singer, and she was an actress back in her day, and she takes an extreme liking to Jacqueline Lemon because she is also an actress. She's a very fun character. Like I said, she's fun, she's sassy, she's bold, she's very confident within herself, but she is a little too trusting in letting whoever into her house. I am just happy that she didn't die in the end, but I think she will die in the future because Gaitok is her personal bodyguard now. So watch out, girl. Watch out, Shritala. So now let's talk about Mook and Gaitok. This is definitely an interesting duo. So Mook, she is a health mentor, and this week she's working with Rick and Chelsea. It's safe to say that she doesn't love her job. She inspires to have more in her life, and she dreams of being a performer. It's important to note that she shows a special interest in Shritala's bodyguards because they get paid well, they get to travel, and it just seems to be an exciting job, unlike Gaitok's job. Gaitok, he is the security guard for the resort. He is a nice guy and he's a Buddhist, so violence goes against his belief system. So when he is given the gun after the robbery, he's a bit apprehensive, even though when he's at the shooting range, he has good aim. Like, and put a pin in that. Put a pin in that. One day during their lunch break, I believe in the second episode, Gaitok, he admits to Mook that he has feelings for her, but in the nicest way, in the most natural way possible. She just shuts him down. And I have to say, Mook, she's stronger than me, because if that man were to smile at me like that, I would have melted. Like, I would have turned into a puddle, because how could you say no to that face? And at first I thought it was just because she wasn't into him like that, and probably still isn't, but now just watching this season and noticing certain behaviors with her, it's very evident that she inspires to have much more in her life, and she wants that in a partner as well. She wants her partners to have bigger goals in life, so the fact that Gaitok was pretty content with where he was at, Mook, she was not having that. We know this to be true because she keeps bringing up the idea of a promotion, and when he is given the gun, she brings so much importance to the gun because she thinks it means that Gaitok is going to have more responsibility, and more responsibility, bigger pay. There's even this scene in season 7 when Mook and Gaitok, they're out on a date, and Gaitok, he brings up the gun and how it's against his religion, like Buddhism, and you know, he's not about that. He's not about violence. He doesn't like it. But Ms. Mook, she rebuts by saying that violence is okay if it's for protection. I haven't read too many opinion pieces about Mook, so I really want to know what other people think about her. But I just have to say, I thought Lisa's acting was this, like, for a debut, even though it wasn't like an extreme big part, I thought I just loved how natural she was in this role. So yeah, I thought she did great. I would love to see her in more roles, like HBO roles. Like, let's go, La Lisa. Now I want to talk about Pornchai. Absolutely love this man. I was hoping throughout this entire season that he wasn't like some villain, like some bad guy, but thank goodness my man came through and he was just a pure soul. I think that's kind of up for debate, but to me, like, he seemed like a good person. He works at the wellness center and he's working with Belinda with the work exchange program. I absolutely adore their blossoming relationship. I thought he was very genuine with his feelings for her. And I just loved how geeky he was when like flirting with her. It was cute. It was such a cute pairing. I also think I love Pornchai and Belinda together because we don't get a lot of representation of interracial POC couples. Usually when we do get interracial representation, it's always like a POC with the white person. So it's always nice to see two POCs together. Yeah, if my future man is not acting like Pornchai, I do not want him. An important thing to note is when Pornchai brought up the idea of going into business together, this is an obvious parallel to season 1 when Tanya came up with the idea to invest in a startup business for Belinda. Now let's talk about Belinda. We know and love her from season 1, and as I mentioned, she travels to Thailand for this work exchange program. I won't talk about her personality too much because we already like know her from season 1, but she is very sweet, kind, and she embraces the Thai culture. But she is not a fan of the wildlife in Thailand. But Pornchai is such a sweet gentleman. He even helps like get a lizard out of her room. Like, how could you leave that man behind, girl? But her main storyline is that she recognizes Greg, that now goes by Gary. She recognizes Greg Gary because he used to be involved with Tanya. She grows suspicious. She goes on Google. She looks up Tanya, finds out that Tanya is dead, and what do you know? That was the same guy that she saw at dinner, Tanya's ex-husband. And she's reading the article of what happened to Tanya, how she's dead, and the police, they want to investigate Greg about the murder or what happened to Tanya, like Tanya's death, but obviously they don't know where he is because he's now hiding out in Thailand. Now, learning this information, whenever she sees Greg, she gets very nervous, and because she gets very nervous, he knows that she knows. So Greg offers Belinda $100,000 in basically hush money for her not to go to the police and reveal where Gary is, as he is the prime suspect in Tanya's death. And like I said earlier with Pornchai, I just loved her little romance she had with him, and I am sad that it ended how it ended. It makes sense given the narrative, but I just loved how awkward and cute they were together. So yeah. What could have been. Now let's talk about Valentine. He is a messy man. So he is also one of the health mentors, and this week he is working with the 3 ladies, Jacqueline, Lori, and Kate. And when they first arrive, Sritala even tells them that everyone requests him because he is so handsome. So yes, he is conventionally attractive and he's flirtatious, so of course the ladies love him. And Miss Jacqueline has this bright idea. Since Lori is the only one who is single out of the 3 of them, she tries to convince her to have a fling with Valentine. So he is on the robbery, and he creates a distraction for Guy Talk as the gates open, so Vlad and Alexei could pass through the open gate to the entrance. Later on, the girls reveal to him, especially Jacqueline, that they want to have fun, they want to go out. So Valentine goes with them and introduces his friends Vlad and Alexei. And it's obvious to us that these guys want to like scam them out of their money. But I am surprised that they never like robbed them or anything. Like they never like directly robbed them. So that's something. And later on in the season, he later realizes that Guy Talk knows that Vlad and his gang robbed the White Lotus. And then he begs Guy Talk not to tell anyone or tell the authorities. And Guy Talk just does that. He doesn't tell anybody, which is kind of sus. Oh, and the literal biggest thing that happened, I don't know how I forgot to mention this earlier, but Valentine did end up sleeping with Jacqueline, even though she's a happily married woman. Even though Pam isn't a main cast member, I do want to give her a quick little shout out. So Pam is the health mentor for the Ratcliffe family. She is Australian, and I just think every time she interacted with Tim, every time she was on my screen, I was just laughing because she's just so funny. And I'm pretty sure she's so used to these stuck-up elitist rich people, so it was just nice seeing her interact with the family. And then that moment when Victoria told Pam that Saxon works for his daddy and how she was like, oh, how wonderful for you, how wonderful for you to Saxon and Tim, that was just so funny to me. So yeah, love Pam. I hope she's doing well. Like, I love my girl. Love my girl. Now let's talk about the guests. And I first want to talk about Kate, Lori, and Jacqueline. And just to give a little insight on their backstory is they are longtime friends. They've met ever since they were in school. But now as grown-ups, they live in different parts of the country. So Kate, she lives in Austin, Texas. Jacqueline, she lives in LA. And Lori, she lives in New York. And the whole point of this trip was to reconnect because they haven't been in the same room together in literal years. So the whole point is to reconnect and make new memories. And first, I want to talk about Kate. I want to talk about Kate first. So like I said, Kate, she lives in Austin, Texas with her very successful husband who owns a company. So I know they're hella rich. And she also has kids and she is a housewife. She has such a fake nice personality. Perfect example of this is when they first got there, Lori tells the girls that she's going to her room because she's pretty jet lagged. Obviously that was an excuse to just exit out of that conversation. And Kate and Jacqueline, they're conversing and the conversation sounds nice. They're talking about Lori. The conversation, it sounds nice and sweet, but it suddenly turns very sour and it goes south. Because at first Kate was saying, she was talking about how, oh, Lori looks so good, and then literally in the middle of that conversation she talks about how tired and beat down Lori looks. I'm just like, girl. And it's funny because even Jacqueline was like, girl, didn't you say Lori looked good? And then she was like, well, she does, but you know, I bet work's been very hard on her and stuff like that. Like, in the second episode she did feel pretty unnoticed. The first incident was when she ran into Victoria and her family and was like, girl, I think I know you. Like, I'm pretty sure we spent the weekend in Austin together because we both know Claire and we were at her baby shower. And then Victoria was acting very standoffish and she was being very rude. So that was a very awkward interaction. Also, when she did her biometrics test, and according to Valentine, her numbers were very average, so those were just incidents where she just felt very unnoticed and unmemorable. She is Christian and she does love the community she has with the church. And also she is an independent that voted for Trump and she is married to a Republican. Yeah. I also think she's someone who wants to avoid confrontation. Because after they had that conversation at dinner about her voting for Trump, she overhears them back at the villa, you know, talking shit about Kate. But she never addresses that situation. And when Jacqueline and Lori are going at it about the whole Valentine situation, she just feels very in the middle. So yeah, she is that type of person who loves stirring the pot. She loves to gossip, but she doesn't want to be involved or confront the actual drama that's going on in the situation. Now let's talk about Miss Jacqueline, because I have some things to say about Miss Girl. So like I said, she lives in LA and she's an actress. And by the way people were talking, she seems to be on network TV. So I wonder what kind of show she does. Like, is she in a procedural? Is she on a soap opera? Is she doing sitcoms? Is she in like comedy drama? Like, what's her... I can see her in a soap opera. She's giving soap opera. And like I mentioned earlier, she tries to convince Lori to sleep with Valentine because Lori is single. And even though she's a happily married woman, she cheats on her husband that is 10 years younger than her with Valentine. So Kate, she sees Valentine sneak into Jacqueline's room and she tells Lori the next day because like I said, she likes to stir the pot. She likes to gossip. When Lori gets all pissy and messages to Jacqueline, she gets all defensive and she accuses Lori of not being happy with her own life. That's why she's projecting onto her. And I get it. I get her point in that. But still, she is a hypocrite. And she is insane because, again, You were like, you should totally sleep with that man just for you to go sleep with him and cheat on your husband and act like you did nothing wrong? Miss Girl. But I believe in episode 7, she does apologize for the whole Valentine situation. She still doesn't admit to what she did, or she doesn't even say what she did was wrong. But she is insane. She's a crazy person. So yes, I like the characterization of Jacqueline, but if she was a real person, I wouldn't be able to stand her. And she also had that line where she was like, the two people I would trust not to never talk behind my back are talking behind my back. Miss Girl, you do the same thing, and you did the same thing about both Kate and Lori. So what is that about? No, but I've always wondered, ever since the season ended, I wonder would Valentine ever go to the press and admit that he had a fling with Jacqueline. That would, I could see that happening. That I headcanon that. Out of all the 3 women, Lori is my absolute favorite, and she is one of my favorite characters throughout the entire season, alongside Chelsea. She lives in New York and she is a corporate lawyer, and like I said earlier, she is single because she is divorced, and she just seems to be going through it. So according to Jacqueline, she got passed over for a promotion at work. Like I said, she got divorced. Like, she's just going through it, and her life doesn't just seem to be as put together and as glamorous as her friends Lori and Kate. I'm sorry, I meant Jacqueline and Kate. And Jacqueline is the one that usually gets all the attention out of all 3 of them. So when they first get there, Jacqueline and Kate are just trading compliments with each other and kind of just leaving her out of the conversation. When they do try to compliment Lori, they say such backhanded shit like, you just go at everything so hard, and also says that her daughter is a really cool girl. She is the funniest one out of all 3 of them, but she does use drinking to cope with feeling sad. After feeling hurt about the whole Valentine situation, she calls Kate and Jacqueline fake and selfish, and as she should, because they are fake and selfish. So after that whole ordeal, she goes to the fight with Valentine and the gang, and after the fight, she ends up sleeping with Alexei. Alexei very kindly tries to scheme her out of $10,000, which is, it's very interesting because they're never very, like I said earlier, they're never violent, they never are pushy. Like, he just asks for the money, and she was like, no, I'm not doing that, as she should. But then, yeah, his actual girl, Alexei's actual, I guess, girlfriend, comes and she has to sneak out the window, and she is just attacked out of the window by his girlfriend, and that's just a whole mess. And she's literally running through the streets of Thailand at night. And I thought something was gonna happen to her, but thank God nothing happened to her. Like, 'cause I would have cried. Like, she's just running through the streets, and she hails down a cab. So I'm just thankful that she is safe. After this whole experience, she's very vulnerable and honest with her feelings about the whole situation and the whole trip itself. And I'll talk about the monologue in the season finale part. But yeah, just an amazing performance by Carrie Coon. I hope she wins an Emmy. And yeah, I just love Lori as a character. Before we continue on with the Ratcliffe family, I just want to say, yes, I finally got my glasses, so I can finally see. And yeah, I'm very happy about that. But let's get back into the swing of things. We have a lot to unpack with this family, and I first want to talk about Saxon. So Saxon, he is the eldest of the 3 kids, and like I mentioned earlier, he works with his dad at his finance job. It is very evident that he looks up to his father and he wants to be just like him. He is this season's self-entitled white boy, just like season 1's Shane and season 2's Cameron. There's even this moment when the family arrives at the villa and Pam, their health mentor, tells them about the digital detox, where she takes their electronic devices and packs them up for the week as they're staying at the villa. And Saxon and Tim are completely against this because they need their phone for work-related purposes. And Saxon, even though he's a grown-ass man, he says the most spoiled rich brat thing ever. He literally says, what am I supposed to do without my phone? I'm like, dude, you are literally in Thailand, one of the most gorgeous countries on the planet. Explore Thailand. Like, go out, do something, go for a walk. I can only dream of going to that country. Like, what do you mean? He puts a lot of himself into his work, and according to him, he doesn't have any hobbies or much of a social life. I forgot to mention, he did go to Duke just like his daddy, so he is very smart. He does like to work out, and he does like making protein shakes. Very average dude bro things. He wants to make protein shakes while he's at the villa, but the room doesn't have any, so he has to ask one of the hotel staff members. And put the biggest pen in this, because we will mention the blender again, trust. He has this self-importance about himself, and that makes so much sense because the apple does not fall too far from the tree. Literally, look at his parents. It makes so much sense to why he thinks very highly of himself and why he's so entitled. But I do have to say, he is very driven and goal-orientated. He also wants to program Lachlan to be just like him and not like Piper, because he doesn't agree with the life direction Piper is heading towards. So yeah, he does not want that for Lachlan. Speaking of Piper, Saxon also called his sister pretty hot, which is also a choice, and is talking about how she is still a virgin, which is also a choice. Throughout the season, he is trying to pursue Chelsea, but she doesn't want any of that because she is loyal to Rick, obviously. And even if she didn't have a boyfriend, she wouldn't want to get with him anyway because, according to her, in her own words, Saxon is soulless. I believe around in the middle of the season, he finally does decide to give up his phone because Tim convinces him. And like I said earlier, Saxon, he really trusts his dad's judgment. And around the middle of the season, he does notice that there is something wrong with Tim. And he asks his dad, hey, what is going on? Like, what is wrong? Does it have to do with work? But Tim reassures him that everything is fine, nothing is wrong, which is obviously the biggest lie. In the full moon party episode, we learned that Saxon doesn't take drugs because he is the drug, according to him. Also, he doesn't take drugs because he doesn't like to be under the influence because he wants to be in control of situations. But he does end up taking ecstasy, I believe, because Chloe and Chelsea kind of peer pressure him into doing so. And I believe somewhere in the beginning of the season, he gives Lachlan some very interesting piece of advice. I don't even know if I can call it advice, but some interesting dialogue. And he says that people like to be told what to do, and yeah, that's gonna come back. Yeah, we'll get into it later when I'm talking about Lachlan, but Saxon does decide to take the ecstasy pill, and very strange things start to happen. But yes, his two main storylines this season were the events that happen with his brother and his whole dynamic with Chelsea. So basically, throughout the season, like I said, he tries to get with Chelsea, but Chelsea already has her mind made up about who Saxon is as a person, and Saxon tries to tell her, well, you got me all wrong, I can get down with the whole spirituality thing. And so, while Rick is still away, they go to her room and they meditate, and obviously Saxon has to make it weird by trying to like hold her hand. So even though Saxon was very strange with Chelsea, I do believe that Chelsea actually taught him something indirectly, and we'll get into that in the season finale part of this video. Now let's talk about Lachlan. My oh my, is there so much to unpack with this character. And I really want to know everybody's think pieces about Lachlan, so please feel free to comment your thoughts, your theories. I need everything because this is an enigma right here. So out of all the kids, he is the youngest. He is a senior in high school, so he has to be around 17, 18. And he is choosing between Duke and Chapel Hill. So obviously another very smart kid. So he is soft-spoken. He is innocent, at least innocently seeming. And he is quite impressionable. And I haven't seen anyone really talk about this, but I'm pretty sure he's an atheist because when he was in the deprivation tank in episode 2, it was revealed that when he was in the tank, he tells Piper that he tried praying, but he said that he just felt like he was talking to himself, like he did not feel any type of presence. So yeah, I just thought that was a very little interesting piece of lore, and I kind of wish we kind of talked about that more. Yeah, so I thought that was a very interesting piece of dialogue and information. And we know that later on he attends the meditation center with Piper. And so it would have been very interesting if there was some kind of evolution with his beliefs or his spirituality, or did he continue being an atheist? Or I kind of just wish there was some kind of conversation about his atheism. I also think that because his mother is so judgmental of people, even rich people like themselves, he probably was very ostracized from a lot of social situations. So I feel like his social understandings are very limited. I feel like in certain social interactions, he doesn't know the proper way to go about certain things. Literally in episode 2, he goes to Piper and tells Piper that Saxon called her hot and that they were literally conversing about her being a virgin. Like, Saxon makes this comment to Lachlan that he is smart and good looking, but they need to buffen him up a bit. And this is obviously for him to be perceived as more masculine. Even when Lachlan was attending his posture session, which I thought that was very funny, but when he was there, his therapist, I don't know what you would call the guy, but his therapist was even like, you're like posturing yourself, you're protecting your feminine side. Also, I think that was a very interesting piece of dialogue. I think some people think he is queer-coded, which I'm not sure. I really want to know people's thoughts on that. Like, do you think Lachlan is queer-coded or queer? Okay, so long story short, Saxon, he meets Chloe, and Chloe invites Saxon and his family on the boat. They go on the boat, and then Saxon tells his parents that Chloe wants to take the boat to this island where they have this full moon party. So Saxon and Lachlan, they attend with Chloe and Chelsea. So they go to the island where they're having this full moon party. Chloe and Chelsea peer pressure Saxon into taking the ecstasy pill. Also, Lachlan takes the pill. Saxon is not happy about that. And one thing leads to another. Chloe's hooking up with both Saxon and Lachlan. But really, Chloe is making out with Lachlan, and Saxon is literally on the side on the bed. And since Saxon is pretty out of it, he is blacking out, and he thinks he is helping himself out. But it is later revealed that Lachlan was tickling his own brother. And I should have mentioned this before I mentioned that whole situation, but there was this scene where Chelsea and Chloe were daring the brothers to kiss. They share a first kiss, and then on the second kiss, Lachlan initiates the kiss, and for obvious reasons, Saxon is pretty weirded out about this. And this kind of circles back to the thing where Saxon tells Lachlan that people like to be told what to do. Since I said Lachlan has this limited awareness about social situations, he obviously didn't mean himself, he meant other people. And later on at the end of the season, Lachlan asks Saxon if he is upset with him, which obviously Saxon is. And Lachlan goes on to tell his brother that he is in a family full of narcissists and that he is a people pleaser and he just wants to please people. The way I literally had to pause my phone screen and scream, because what the actual fuck was that? So yeah, Lachlan definitely an interesting character. I need everyone to write essays about him. I need video essays done. What is going on there? So now let's talk about Little Miss Piper. I have to say this before I forget, but Piper reminds me a lot of Olivia in season 1 and Albie in season 2, where these people think they are so different from their family, but they're really not. So Piper is a senior in college and she is a religious studies major. So she tells her family that they're traveling to Thailand so she can do research for her thesis paper and that she has to interview a monk. It's very obvious that she is the black sheep of her family because she believes that her values and principles that her family has, she doesn't align with. So it is later revealed that this whole thing was a lie. There is no thesis paper. She really wanted to go to Thailand so she can take a gap year off of college and live in Thailand for a year and live at the meditation center. And the whole purpose of all of this was to find herself because she's been pretty sad with her life. And like I said, family, their beliefs, they don't necessarily align with hers. At least that's what she thinks. But Victoria, her being the smart lady that she is, makes a deal with Piper and says, if you can stay at the meditation center for one night and not complain, have no problems, then you can move to Thailand for a year. But if not, then you never ever say anything about this, ever. And Piper agrees, and Lachlan also wants to go with her. She goes there, she spends the night, and what do you know, she had a miserable time. This is where I kind of have some grace for Piper because she does feel guilty about feeling like a privileged, pampered princess. But she does say that the food is not organic, it's bland, the beds are very uncomfortable, and I'm just like, girl, what did you expect? What did you expect? But yeah, she does feel very empathetic. I will give her that. She is a very empathetic person, unlike Olivia from season 1. She does genuinely feel bad that people have to live like this, and she gets to live very comfortably, and she gets to go back to her privileged life. And Victoria literally tells her daughter the best way to handle these feelings is to just embrace the fact that you are a privileged, rich bitch. Something I should have mentioned when talking about the brothers is on night 1, when it was decided that Saxon and Lachlan will be sleeping in the same room. Number 1, literally, why did Saxon wear no clothes? Why is he bare-ass naked sharing a room with his brother? And number 2, why is Lachlan staring at his bare ass? But anyway, back to Piper, as she is the only normal one in the family. Maybe not the most normal person ever, but at least the most normal one in this family. And something I should have mentioned earlier is the morning after they came back from the meditation center, Lachlan tells Piper that, hey, maybe I'll take a gap year too and come to Thailand with you. And Piper is so against this for 2 reasons. Number 1, in retrospect, Piper didn't even like the meditation center. And number 2, the whole point of her coming to Thailand in the first place was for her to find herself. And her brother being there with her in Thailand for an entire year would get in the way of that. It makes so much sense that Piper is the middle child because she does not want to go in the same direction that Saxon is going in. But she is also not as idle and impressionable as Lachlan. Rick has an interesting line in this season where he says people come to Thailand for either 2 reasons. They're either coming for something or running away from something. And Piper definitely is the former. Piper definitely reminds me of this line that is sung in Lord's song Mood Ring. The lyric reads, let's fly somewhere eastern, they'll have what I need, they'll have what I need, let's go. Not to worry, the song is satire. That line is a commentary on the whole concept of people that live in the Western world coming to Eastern countries to find spirituality and fulfillment. Obviously, this whole idea of trying to find connection and spirituality with someone else's culture and kind of treating other people's culture as an aesthetic, which is very icky. So even though Piper really thought she was very different from her family and her beliefs are very different, she is not different at all. That's why I find their ending so much more compelling, because we'll never get to know how they truly have to handle being poor. Very briefly, let's talk about the icon, the legend that is Victoria Ratcliffe. First, I gotta say, Parker Posey, she ate this role up. And I just love how her accent has become such a big meme, especially when it comes to this show. And Parker, she really does the whole narcissistic, out of touch, middle-aged white woman thing very well. And yes, Victoria is the wife of Tim, and she is the mother of Saxon, Piper, and Lachlan. Just like her husband, she has such this high importance about herself, and having a lot of money and being affluent is such a status symbol for her, and it's literally her entire being. It's funny because she even looks down on other rich people. She even has a line where she says just because someone's rich doesn't mean they're not trashy. She also has this very out-of-pocket line where she calls all actresses prostitutes. Literally, she says the most unhinged, out-of-pocket stuff in the show. I think she is very uncomfortable in social settings, like that example I had earlier with Kate, and how she was very awkwardly interacting with her. And when the family was invited on the boat by Chloe, she was talking to the other boat attendees, and she was very, like, it was obvious she didn't want to be there. And she was looking for her lorazepam, but she couldn't find it because her husband stole it. She was really against the idea of Piper moving to Thailand. And she says a lot of fucked up things, which is putting it very lightly. She even denies Piper being a Buddhist, and through, Piper really wasn't a Buddhist, but still, like, it doesn't give you the right to say someone isn't something. Later in the season, Tim and Victoria have this conversation about not having money, and she literally tells her husband that she doesn't think she could live without having any money. Yeah. All in all, a very fun character. I love her so much, even though if she was a real person, I wouldn't be able to stand her. And I just love the commentary on her character. Hi, it's Editing Me here, and something I hate that I forgot to mention with Victoria's character is why she allows Saxon to literally terrorize Piper, and she reveals that when she was a little kid, her brothers used to terrorize her all the time. So ever since she was a kid to her adulthood, she was conditioned to believe that that's just how boys behave, and that's how boys are supposed to behave. Like this whole boys will be boys will roughhouse, boys will be class clowns, boys will be immature, and how society gives grace to boys that act like that. But if the roles were reversed, girls would be deemed inappropriate and unladylike or not girly. And I just think that she thinks that behavior is normal with boys and their sisters. And finally, in this family, let's talk about the main character, Timothy Ratcliffe. It is so insane that Timothy is inspired by a real life case of a man that literally his own family just because he blew all of their money. He was my absolute favorite male character, and it's because of Justin Isaac's performance. I thought his regional North Carolina Southern accent was spot on. It was very impressive as someone who literally lives on the southeast coast. So his storyline, before the trip, he was involved in this money laundering scheme. On the first night that the family gets there, Tim gets a call from, I guess, someone from the office telling him that a story is being ran on Kenny Nguyen about this whole scheme. On the second night, Tim actually calls Kenny about this situation, and we get a special voice cameo from K.Q. Kwan. And he says he doesn't even care about the story that another news outlet is running because someone in the company ratted him out and he is basically done. He is going to jail, and because Tim was a part of this money laundering scheme, his ass is going to jail too. And he is going to lose all his money. He's going to lose his house. He's going to lose everything. And the Ratcliffes, they're broke. Please tell me you got that The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody reference. Please.
'Cause you're broke!
I love Timothy's characterization because in the beginning of the season, he just was this self-entitled asshole to everybody. But as the season goes on, he keeps taking Victoria's lorazepam and he's slowly starting to lose his mind. And I know my morality is coming into question knowing what happened in the season finale, but I really started to feel for the guy because he was literally having dreams about taking his own life. He was having thoughts and dreams about taking his family's life. And one of the most heartbreaking scenes, in my opinion, in this season was he was literally about to himself, but thank God Victoria interrupted him. And he even, I forgot if he wrote the note or he was preparing to write the note. But yeah, I really felt for Timothy in this season. Yes, don't do illegal fucked up shit, but what he was going through was really sad. But yeah, he was my absolute favorite male character, like I said. Love Jason's performance. Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay? And finally, let's talk about Rick and Chelsea. My Shaylas. My Shayla. My Shaylas. So Rick and Chelsea, they are this couple with a huge age gap. Rick is this much older man. He is like 50. And Chelsea is probably in her mid-20s. And I'm going to say this right now. Chelsea was basically the manic pixie dream girl in this season. Which, if you don't know what that means, is basically this stock character who is very eccentric and quirky. And her main purpose is to serve the male protagonist, especially in this romantic way. She has no idea why they're in Thailand as she went to go to Australia. We learned from the stress meditation session that Rick has with Emerita that his mother OD'd when he was only 10 years old and his father supposedly died before he was even born. His whole purpose for coming to the White Lotus in Thailand was to meet the guy that supposedly killed his father, and that guy also owns the hotel with his wife Sritala, Jim Hollinger. And when Rick and Chelsea meet their health mentor Mook, Rick asks her where's Sritala's husband, and Mook is just telling Jim's business that he had a stroke, he went to the hospital, and then he flew back home in Bangkok. After Sritala's performance on the first night, he overhears her say that she's going to fly back to Bangkok to be with her husband. And then Rick tells Chelsea that he has to fly to Bangkok for a couple of days. I do love Rick, okay? I do. But let me tell you how crazy this man is. So he goes to Bangkok, he meets his friend, he gets guns from him, he intrudes Sritala's and Jim's home and convinces Sritala that they're making a movie based off of her life to literally just be in her house, doing all of this just to be in close proximity to Jim. I will say in episode 7, when Steve and Rick are in the house and Rick and Jim are alone in that room and he prepares to hit Jim, and the way that Jim was like trying to protect himself, covering his face, I was like, aw, because that was such a cute old man thing to do. I was like, please don't hurt that man. He's right, yeah. And I love Amy Lou Wood as Chelsea. You might know her best as Amy on the hit Netflix show Sex Education. And Amy does the whole naive role very well. Chelsea is not stupid, she is not dumb, she is just naive. Trust me, there's a huge difference. Chelsea is fun, she's young, she's vibrant, she's very much into spirituality, and she loves Rick. She is a literal ride or die. I mean a literal ride or die for this man. And she befriends Chloe on the first day of the trip. She has this weird dynamic with Saxon, but of course she is loyal to Rick, like I literally already mentioned. And she was also in the store when it was getting robbed. She also got bitten by a poisonous snake because Rick let the snakes out of the cage at the snake show. And she still stayed by that man's side, But yeah, definitely one of my favorite characters in the entire season. In this part of the video, I'm not going to mention everything that happened in the season finale because I already mentioned some of what happened and the character and storyline part of the video. So how I'm going to structure this part is I'm going to talk about little moments that lead into the bigger storyline, 2 important dinner conversations, and very lastly, everyone's wrapped up storyline. So a few little moments I want to talk about are Jim and Sritala, they go back to the resort to get a photo op with Jacqueline and her friends before they leave. Because like I said earlier, Sritala is a big fan of Jacqueline and they want to post their photo on the White Lotus website. Another thing I want to mention is Guy Talk tells Mook that he wants to quit. And Mook is very upset by this because she thought that he was going to get a promotion. And Guy Talk suggests going out on another date, but she makes up an excuse to why she can't go. And very last little thing I want to mention is Rick and Chelsea reunite on the beach. Rick tells Chelsea that he said what he needed to say and then he finally got the monkey off of his back. And Saxon is there witnessing this reunion, and a lot of people interpret his facial expression as him actually having feelings for Chelsea, but here's how I kind of interpreted his face. So if you go back earlier in the season, Chelsea tells Saxon that once you connect with someone on such a spiritual level, regular sex with anyone, you just can't do it. So I think he's really witnessing a real connection between two people that's not just surface level and about physical attraction. So yes, Saxon is finally realizing that a relationship is more than just sex and physical attraction. So I think that's why he had that type of reaction on his face. And say what you want about Patrick, but I think he's a really good actor, and I think he acted his ass off in this season. The two dinner conversations I want to talk about are of Lori, Kate, and Jacqueline, and then Rick and Chelsea. So Lori shows up a little late to their last dinner, and Kate and Jacqueline, they talk about how grateful they are for this trip and how much they love this trip. But Lori takes the opportunity to be very vulnerable and to be very honest about how she's really felt this past week. She has been really sad this past week, and she tells her friends that as you get older, you really have to reflect on your life and you reflect on the choices you made and the mistakes you've made. And she tells Kate and Jacqueline when she looks at them, her choices, the choices she made in her life are very clear. How a lot of things in her life just didn't work out for her. Her work life, her love life. She expresses to them that she has no belief system. But she had this epiphany where she realizes that she doesn't need God or religion to have meaning in her life because time itself gives her life meaning. Having friends and having loved ones in her life gives her life meaning. Even just being with her friends, talking about random shit, still feels very profound because that's life. They literally started this life together, and even though they're not together, they're going through life on their own, they're still together in this moment. She looks at Jacqueline and she tells her that she's glad that she has a beautiful face. She looks at Kate and tells her that she's glad she has a beautiful life. And she tells them that she is just glad to be at the table. And when I tell you this is my favorite scene in the entire season, I really think Leslie, Michelle, and Carrie did such an amazing job in this scene. And the way they just express I love you to each other, I tear up every single time. It was just an amazing scene. Well directed, well written, and well acted. I just love it so much.
I'm glad you have a beautiful face. And I'm glad that you have a beautiful life. And I'm just happy to be at the table. I love you. I love you. I love you.
And I really do think out of all the characters in this season, they were the ones to truly get a happy ending. They got to reconnect and they didn't leave on a bitter note. It makes me so sad because I love Rick and Chelsea so much. But Chelsea tells Rick that he is finally free and whatever happens to him happens to her. And she tells him, I think we're going to be together forever, don't you think? And he responds with, that's the plan. Chelsea explains to Rick what amor fati means, which is also the name of this season finale. And it's a Latin phrase for love of fate. And it's basically a phrase that means to embrace your faith, whether it's good or bad. Whatever happens, happens. So first, I want to wrap up Belinda's storyline. As we know, she didn't immediately take the 100K that Greg initially offered her. So Zion tags along to this meeting that is set between Belinda and Greg as he is a business major at the University of Hawaii. So Zion being Zion, he bumps up the offer to $5 million. And Greg is like, ain't no way that's happening. Even though this man literally has $500 million. He literally has $500 million. That $5 million is nothing to him. Then Belinda, she has such a big brain moment.
So powerful. My mind, oh, it amazes me sometimes.
I mean, it was morally questionable, but nevertheless, it was very smart. So Belinda, she gets up from the couch. She tells Zion that this man is not giving us any money, that this is a waste of time, and she dramatically storms out the room. Zion, he catches up to his mom, and he's like, Mom, what the hell are you doing? And then this lady literally tells Zion to go back in the room and close this $5 million deal. Because if they do not get this money, who knows what Belinda will do? Who knows who she will tell? Like, who knows? Like, she wants to scare the shit out of Greg. Later on that night, Greg transfers the money into her bank account. And the next morning, she shows Zion and they're both very happy and excited. And Belinda books a stress meditation session with Amarita for Zion because according to her, he's going to need it. She goes to Pornchai and then explains to him that circumstances has changed in her life and that she's actually leaving Thailand the next day. And very sadly, Pornchai asks about the business that they were supposed to start. And then she says that she just can't commit to anything right now. And another reason to why I do believe Pornchai really did have feelings for her and it wasn't just about the business is that when the ordeal happened, and we'll get to that in a second, but when that happened, his only concern was to protect Belinda. So I do generally believe that he does have feelings for her. Now let's wrap up Tim's storyline. So Pam visits the Ratliff Villa to return their electronics, but Tim is all like, that won't be necessary. So Pam has this idea to just put their electronics on the boat so they can detox till the very last minute until they go to the airport. And Tim asks Pam about the fruit that was mentioned in episode 1, and Pam reminds him that the seeds of the fruit are very poisonous, and that locals even call the tree of the fruit the suicide tree whenever people want to, you know, commit suicide. So good old Tim gets this idea. Later on that day, Tim asks Lachlan if hypothetically he could live without no money, and he means no money, like not even a house. And Lachlan says that he thinks he's good, and Tim agrees. Tim tells Lachlan to go outside and do something since it's their last day, but this is just an excuse to get Lachlan out of the house. He takes the poisonous fruit, cuts it open, and puts the seeds in the blender. And remember I said that we're going to circle back to the blender. It turns out the blender is actually a Chekhov's gun, which means any object that is not just used for decoration but is later important to a story. So later that night, Tim makes pina coladas mixed with the poisonous seeds of the fruit with the intention to wipe out his entire family except for Lachlan. He doesn't let Lachlan drink the pina colada because Lachlan is the only one who's okay with hypothetically having no money. But feeling immense guilt, Tim immediately slaps it out of Saxon's hands and then he takes the rest of the glasses and dumps them in the sink. But he doesn't clean out the blender that still has the seed residue in it. The next morning, Lachlan goes to make a protein shake and he doesn't clean out the blender because he thinks that the residue is from the protein shake Saxon made earlier. So Lachlan drinks his protein shake. Literally, he starts dying, and his family, with the exception of Tim, goes out to breakfast. Unbeknownst to them, Lachlan is literally dying by the pool, and then Lachlan throws up a little bit, and then he passes out. And Tim wakes up, and he sees Lachlan literally passed out at the pool. He rushes over and cries out for help and tries to wake up Lachlan. And Lachlan starts to open his eyes. And I totally forgot Lachlan said this because of what I said earlier in the video. But Lachlan's very last line was, "I think I saw God." And Tim, he just chuckles in relief. Ratliff family, they're on the boat heading to the airport. And they finally get their phones back. But before they open their phones and their electronics, Tim warns his family that things are about to change. But they can get through it because nothing is more important than family. And in their very last scene, Saxon turns on his phone, he swipes through unread messages, and for a split second, he looks at his dad, and then he looks at the rest of his family. And I knew Mike was literally giggling and kicking his feet when he wrote that because it ate so good. Finally, let's talk about Rick and Chelsea. So Rick runs into Jim at breakfast, and Jim is talking shit. He literally calls his mother a liar, a drunk, and a slut. And yes, Jim had the right to be upset, but insulting his mother, man, really? And Jim goes on to say that his father was not a great man and that Rick didn't miss out on much. And knowing what we know now, what was he trying to say there? Rick kind of makes this approach to him, but Jim is all like, what, you think you're gonna kill me now? And then this motherfucker is strapped. This old man is strapped. Rick, he goes back to the table upset, and Chelsea tells him to forget about him and focus on the love that's right in front of you instead of the love you never gotten. And Chelsea, she begs her man not to do anything stupid, but he gets up and leaves the table as Jim and Sritala's bodyguards are looking for Rick. And of course, my girl Chelsea follows him. Rick is looking for Emerita, but she can't talk to him right now because she's busy with her session with Zion. He's sitting on the bench and then he sees Sritala and Jim about to take a photo with Jacqueline, Kate, and Lori. Rick notices that the bodyguards step away for a quick moment, so he takes this opportunity to get up and confront Jim, and then he shoots him. He literally takes Jim's gun from his jacket and shoots him twice. He literally he's like, fuck you, and then shoots him twice. And Shrita's all like, why did you just shoot my man? And Rick is like, he killed my father. And Sritala reveals to him that Jim is his father. And now I'm just thinking to myself, why the hell did Jim not just say that? Chaos ensues at the White Lotus. People are running, screaming, crying, throwing up. Like, it's shit literally already hit the fan, but everything is going crazy. Even the monkeys are losing their fucking shit, screaming and screeching. Guy Talk, he hears all this commotion, so he goes out and sees what the hell is happening. Rick actually ends up shooting and killing Sritala's and Jim's bodyguards. But in the end of all this chaos, Chelsea actually ends up getting shot. And when Rick realized what happened, I thought Amy's acting in this scene was phenomenal because she is literally dying and she's just looking up at Rick and her facial expression is very sad, obviously. But she's looking up to him is like, you did this to me. You caused this. Like, all you had to do was let this anger, let this shit go, but you couldn't let it go, and this is the effect. Very desperate, Rick picks her up and tries to get her help, but Guy Talk, he is ordered to shoot and kill Rick. And Guy Talk is very hesitant at first, but Sritala keeps shouting at him to shoot him and kill him. So he finally does. He shoots him twice. Perfect aim, like I mentioned before in this video. And both Rick and Chelsea fall into the water. Now, very briefly, let's talk about the ending montage. So Chloe finds a man to sleep with so Greg can be voyeuristic and watch. Yeah, that was a whole thing. Valentine, Vlad, and Alexei are back to partying and potentially scamming women out of their money. Steve is back at the monastery, so hopefully he gets on track to being sober. Guy Talk and Mook hug goodbye before Guy Talk drives Sritala off to, I guess, the funeral because she is wearing all black. Rick and Chelsea's bodies are getting ready to be shipped off and transported back home. All the rest of the families are on the boat back to the airport, and Zion and Belinda have their own little private boat to head back to the airport, and they are waving goodbye to the staff members. And this is supposed to represent that she is no longer a part of this working class. She's no longer a part of the staff, leaving behind a very sad porn chai. Now I want to talk about parallels, connections, Easter eggs, just things I've noticed. And of course I'm not going to get every single thing, but here are just some things that I want to point out. And most of these are just dialogue and little hints. The first thing I want to point out, in the beginning of the season, Down is having his meditation session with Emerita, and he admits that he's been stressed out about final exams and some other things. We now know that those other things are referring to Greg. And I don't know if I'm tripping, but I'm pretty sure I heard Sritala scream when Zion first notices the gunshots. The poisonous fruit is seen when Saxon is walking through the villa when the family arrives. On Kate, Jacqueline, and Lori's first night at dinner, they're watching a performance, and it reminds Kate of this skit they did in school. She says that Jacqueline was, of course, the face. And in their final dinner scene, Lori tells Jacqueline that she's glad that she has a beautiful face. Chelsea tells Rick that he is a victim of his own decisions, and that's literally how their story ends. And Chelsea also tells Rick that she's going to help him get his joy back, even if it kills her. And it did. It sure did. And Belinda also has this comment where she says, I have a feeling something good is going to come out of this. She thought she was talking about the exchange program, but little did she know she was going to get $5 million out of Greg. In episode 2, Tim running on the treadmill could represent him trying to run away from his problems. But the way that his family keeps having conversations about a tsunami, that could represent him not having the ability to run away from his problems. Chelsea mentions that bad things come in threes and that she's already almost died twice. She was in the store when it got robbed, she was bitten by a poisonous snake, and at the end of the season she died. And we know that the blender is a Chekhov's gun, but it could also be a symbol for toxic masculinity. Saxon really wants Lachlan to follow in his footsteps and present more masculine and drink protein shakes. Belinda is reading a book called Surrounded by Narcissists, and Lachlan makes a comment that he's in a family full of narcissists. After the Philadelphia encounter, the brothers accidentally switch shorts. This is to show how discombobulated Saxon is, but in a symbolic sense, it's to show a switch in the power dynamic between the brothers, because remember, Lachlan was the one that dominated the kiss. And also Lachlan, Loch Ness Monster, hello. There are so many connections to Lachlan in being in water. His name literally means land of lakes, so I thought that was a pretty cool, interesting detail. I kind of already mentioned this, but in episode 2, when he's in the deprivation tank, he tells Piper that he tried praying, but it just felt like he was talking to himself. But in the season finale, when he's on the brink of death, he envisions himself in a body of water and trying to swim up to the surface. But above the surface, he sees 4 Buddhist monks, and this could represent his family. And after he wakes up, his very last line is, "I think I just saw God." The last thing I want to mention is Chelsea makes this comment comparing herself and Rick to the yin and yang symbol. And when they die and their bodies are in the pond, they represent the yin and yang symbol. And I quickly want to mention the title sequence, the name credits, and the illustrations. When the title sequence is being shown, behind the actor's name credits, you'll see little illustrations. And this could represent either the characterization of the character that the actor is portraying or their outcome in their storyline. And I won't talk about all of them, but I'll talk about some of them. Amy Lou Wood, who portrays Chelsea, name credit depicts an animal's head being bitten off and killed, possibly referring to her being bitten by a snake and then later on killed in the season finale. Parker Posey, who plays Victoria, name credit is being shown a monkey smoking, a possible connection to her being under the influence of a prescription drug. Lori, played by Carrie Coon, is shown a solo elephant, which could represent Lori feeling left out of the group with Jacqueline and Kate. And Sam Navilla, which I know I'm pronouncing that wrong, who plays Lachlan, is shown a boy drowning, which connects to the deprivation tank. And when he's on the brink of death in the season finale, he envisions himself drowning and trying to swim up to the surface. And above water, he sees 4 Buddhist monks, possibly representing his family. And the illustration next to Leslie Bibb's name, who plays Kate in the show, is shown 2 elephants. And this could represent her having a good memory as she memorized Victoria from 10 years ago. But what I noticed is this is 2 elephants and they look like they're looking at each other conversing, and I think this could represent her love of gossip. And the illustration next to Natasha Rothwell, who plays Belinda, is shown a heron looking at its reflection, and this could represent her recognizing Greg. In this part of the video, I'm going to be sharing my thoughts and opinions on other people's thoughts and opinions. So the first thing I want to share is a lot of people had a problem with the pacing of the season and the pacing of the season finale, and they thought the season finale was too long. But I disagree, because in the season finale we had so many characters and we had so many storylines to wrap up, so it made sense, in my opinion, for the episode to be 90 minutes. And it also made sense for the season to have 8 episodes because, like I said, we have so many characters, and we had the most characters this season than we've ever had before. And something I really disagree with is some people think the overall series is boring, but what you have to understand is that this is a character study show, not a character development show. Like, the whole purpose of this show is commentary and to see how these rich, wealthy people interact with the working class and how they interact with each other. And we are literally with these people for the duration of a week, so of course they're not going to go through a lot of character development. Like, they might get a change of perspective, but they're not going to go through a large development. And I'm not going to lie, I was kind of angry when I saw this tweet, but there was someone that said that Amarita was the real enemy or the real villain of this season of The White Lotus because of her not speaking to Rick. And I'm just thinking to myself, there is no way you're blaming her for a white man's actions. Like, yes, I understand if she probably did talk to him for a few minutes, then what happened probably wouldn't have happened. He probably wouldn't have shot Jim. But at the same time, he chose to do that. And like Chelsea said earlier in the season, that he is a victim of his own decision. So he still decided to do that. It was his choice. Like, no, it was no one else's fault but his. And this is coming from someone who loves Rick as a character. So the fact that some of y'all were saying that is pretty wild. It's so interesting because at the end of this season, a lot of people started to hate Belinda because of what she did to Porn Chai. And they were calling it like similar to what Tanya did to her. But it was similar, but it wasn't the exact same thing. And kind of let me explain what I mean by that. So with Porn Chai and Belinda, it was an idea. It wasn't like it was 100% confirmed or they shook hands. But with Tanya and Belinda, it was Tanya really getting Belinda's hopes up. That being said, I still felt for him when she left early because she was supposed to be there for like 3 months and she's only been there for a week. Belinda, girl. But I did read this interesting tweet where it said that Belinda actually had the saddest story ending because the whole point of the White Lotus is to see and to show how money corrupts people. And this is somewhat true. I don't 100% agree. I am like 50-50 on the take, but I do somewhat agree because when it came to really negotiating getting this money, she was marbling her own morals, and she was literally speaking to someone who she believed killed his own wife. So the fact that she was willing to accept money from staying quiet about what happened to Tanya was kind of much. And now I'm wondering to myself, will she even use that money to start her own business, or will she just go ahead and retire and just live off of her $5 million? I'm pretty sure she's going to give Zion half, but live off of her $2.5 million. No, but I do see her using that money to start her business, so I think she's going to do that probably. And it's crazy how TikTok comment sections are their own little echo chamber because I once saw this video, I can't for the life of me find it, but I once saw this video and all the comments were saying how much of Zion's actor was like terrible and just a bad actor. But then I saw this other video, it was this guy talking about how he knows people who know people that act exactly like Zion, like the whole business major frat bro type vibe. And I thought Zion's actor did a fine job, like, and the man is fine, like, and he's also a good actor, but I don't know where people were getting that he was a bad actor. I don't know where people were getting that from.
This is my playpen. Borderline, take it like party.
And the last thing I want to say is on Twitter, some of you guys were calling episode 7 a nothing burger. How is that nothing? Like, I love that there was all this confrontation going on while they're also cutting back and forward to the fight, even though the fight was later on that night. Like, I thought that was really cool. So I don't know what you're talking about. I enjoyed episode 7. Yeah, what do y'all mean that was a nothing burger? That was a fun episode. Do y'all hate having fun? And now, finally, it is time for my final thoughts. So as you can tell, I really love this season and I really love this show. I literally spent an hour and however many minutes talking my ass out of this show. So yeah, you get the idea. I really like this show. I really like Mike White. Yes, love you, King. And now to close out this video, I'm just gonna say a bunch of random shit and I'm gonna give Mike White some ideas because I know he's watching this video. And one thing I kind of did forget to put in the last section is there's a lot of people that hated the theme song, but I personally love the theme song because it sounded so whimsical and it sounded just so like fun. And it's funny because it juxtaposes the themes of this season, and it's safe to say that this season had the darkest themes, literally death. Yes, this season was written well, it was acted well, it was shot beautifully. I loved how it was in Thailand. I just thought this was a great season. And now I'm going to give Mike White some ideas. He's probably already writing, like, as we're speaking. So I don't know how well this is going to go. Maybe if we get renewed for a season 5, maybe he can take these ideas. And like I said earlier, Mike White, I know you're watching, so you can take these ideas, like, free of charge. Maybe add me on as, like, a creative consultant. So I think it'll be cool to have the next season of the White Lotus to be either in Morocco, France, or Greece. I know Greece is probably a long shot because according to Mike, he wants to stay away from the beaches. And the last 3 seasons were of beaches. I think the 7 deadly sins, that could be a cool concept because 7 deadly sins, 7 days a week, it makes up a whole week. So incorporating that story within a week, that could be kind of cool, I think. And another thing I forgot to say is, it's probably very evident by this video, but even though Lachlan isn't my favorite character, I feel like in a sense he is because I'm the most intrigued by him and I just want to know so much of his lore. I really want so many people to psychoanalyze his brain, write the essays, make the video essays. I really just want a lot of discourse on Lachlan. So please tell me your thoughts, your opinions on everything, the season, the show, the characters. But I really want to know people's thoughts and opinions on Lachlan because he's just very interesting. But yeah, that's my video on the White Lotus. I really hope you enjoyed it. And you guys, it's your turn. Please tell me your thoughts, your opinions. What did you like about this season? What did you didn't like? Yes, just tell me everything. Yes. And thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna go now because, yeah. Bye. Peace out. Oh, and make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe. And again, thank you so much for watching. Mwah! Love you. Bye.
Lorazepam.
Oh, a drawing? You're supposed to recite lorazepam?
Yes. Okay. And Buddhism.
Buddhism.
And tsunami again.
Tsunami.
And Piper, no.
Piper, no!